2 days had passed since the miracle of Kojiro's revival, and the emotional whirlwind of those days had left you feeling both exhausted and elated. Words of his recollection had spread throughout the demon-slaying course like wildfire. Everyone had been both shocked and overjoyed by the news, especially Senjiro, Tengen, and Mitsuri. Indeed, it'll all seem like a surreal dream. You were happy, blessed even, to have your husband back. But the sorrow of losing your Oba-chan was still fresh. The joy and relief of Kojo's revival didn't completely fill the void she had left. You knew you had to find a way to balance the emotions swirling within you. After his revival, Kojo had been taken to the Butterfly Estate, where he is currently recovering from his fierce battle with Upper Moon 3 Akaza. And once you got back, the first thing you did was immediately hold your baby. You were told by Aioi that Tayo had been crying non-stop for you. And honestly, you felt guilty, awful even, for leaving him. As of now, you had left him with Tengen and his wives to travel back to the frozen lands of Yukiyama and attend the funeral. It had begun to snow as the villagers of Kazanaha gathered at the temple, each one paying their respects to the late Otsu Fujiwara, whose life had been a beacon of light and gratitude to all those who knew her. The snowflakes fell softly, as if to mourn with them, adding to the serene beauty of the somber occasion. Within the warmth of the the scent of incense filled the air, mingling with the scent of freshly cut flowers, and adorned with the altar that held Utsuwara's urn and picture. You, Teko, and Kizuru, along with their youngest daughter, Makito, wore black kimonos as you stood in a line at the entrance, accepting condolences from the villagers who had come to show their respects. The little girl's eyes were swollen with tears, and she clenched a small bouquet of white snow lilies, a symbol of purity and innocence, to her chest. Despite her age, she understood the gravity of the situation, the loss of her grandmother weighing heavily on her tiny frame. Tokyo spoke quietly to the mourners, his deep voice carrying a hint of sweet sorrow, his words filled with warmth and respect as he thanked each person for coming to bid farewell to Otsu. Chizuru stood next to him, her eyes red and puffy, but her posture remained strong as she offered a small, solemn smile to each guest. The villagers whispered their condolences, sharing fond memories of Otsu. Her kindness and wisdom had touched so many lives, and her legacy would live on through the people she had helped. You watched them, feeling the weight of her loss deepen with each story shared. The funeral had been beautiful, a testament to a life well lived by Otsu, and the snow had begun to pick up outside, painting the landscape in a prismed white that seemed to mirror the purity of her soul. A small monumental candle had been lit in the snow outside the temple, a symbol of her eternal flame that would live on in the hearts of people of Kazuna village. Sorry if I cry on this, guys. Her ashes were scattered across Yoshiwara's mountain peak, as per her wishes. Her eminence now began one with the land she had dedicated her life to protect. The mountain, silent and stoic, bore witness to the quiet sobs of those who loved her. As Soki spoke with the last guest, you exhaled sharply breath and glanced out the window of the temple, watching the snowfall thickened. The silence brought bittersweet tang to your heart. The purity of the snow mirrored Oba-chan's spirit, but it also served as a stark reminder of the cold reality of her absence. Once the guests left, Soki turned to you, his olive eyes expressing empathy silently, as he scampered over to you, grabbing 2 cups of the bottle of sake from a nearby table that had been prepared for the morning guests. "Hey there, Snow Princess. Care for a drink?" His gruff voice cut through the silence as he offered you a cup, His expression was solemn, but there was a glint of warmth in his eyes that you hadn't seen in a long time. You smiled softly as he took a seat beside you on the tatami mat. "Thanks," you muttered. He pours you a cup and then one for himself, the liquid swarming in the light. "Here's to Oba-chan," he said, lifting his cup with a little gentle smile, and you nodded, feeling the lump in your throat, and raising yours. "To Oba-chan." You both clinked the cups together, the sound echoing faintly throughout the room, and took a sip. The warmth of the sake spread through your chest, comforting bland of the chill of sorrow that had taken root there. "So, Madoka is going to be the new shrine priestess?" You began tentatively, looking into the depths of the cup. Thoki nodded. "Yeah," he said with a proud smile. "Now that Oba-chan's gone, it's Madoka's turn to take over. Her kagaru is this week." "She'll make a fine priestess," you assured him, your voice a gentle whisper. "Anyways, how's Kayaka doing?" Thoki asked, his eyes drifting towards the window where the snow continued to fall. "He's been better. I had no idea Oba-chan knew him. I'm still amazed. She used to be a demon slayer in her youth." Toki's smile grew a tuft wider, his gaze softening. "Yeah, she had quite the past, didn't she? The woman was full of surprises until the very end. Chizuru and I never knew it either until now. She had a whole life before we came into the picture. From what Kayaka told me a while back, you and Chizuru were the first he'd met," you said, recalling Kayaka's story. "Yeah, I knew all along he was a boy." Thoki laughed, his deep chuckle rumbling throughout the quiet room. You scoffed, not entirely believing him. Thoki always had a sack for spilling tall tales. "Did you?" you asked, raising an eyebrow. "Sounds like he had fooled you to me." The brown-haired male sighed sheepishly. "Well, at first, but after a while I sort of noticed something," Thoki admitted. "For an instant, he refused to take a bath with Chizuru and the other girls, and I may or may not have seen him take a whiz at one point." He chuckled nervously. "After I told Chizuru about his gender, we sort of kept it to ourselves. We figured it out. It was his little secret to console, not ours to spill." You couldn't help but chuckle. "But seriously, though," Toki's expression grew solemn. "I'm glad to hear he's hanging in there despite his illness. He's a strong man, and to hear that he has a wife and children really brings a smile to my face." He took another sip of sake, the warmth of the alcohol stark contrast to the chill in the room. "I'll make sure to tell him that." You laughed softly. "Good to know. And tell him that he's always welcome to visit Kazuna. We'll have bottles of onishi to fight off his pain waiting for him," Toki said, his voice a mix of joviality and solemnity. Afterwards, a minute of silence fell upon you both. The atmosphere of the room was filled with a faint crackling of the sunken hearth. You glanced down at your cup, the warmth of the sake doing little to chase away the lingering questions in your mind. "Hey, Thoki," you began. "Could you tell me more about Oba-chan's soul-breathing style?" "Huh? What makes you think I know anything about it?" He sweats a bit, seeming surprised by your question. You scoffed. "Come on now. You've known her longer than I have. Surely she has told you something about it by now?" For a moment, Thoki said nothing, unsure whether or not to tell you all he knew. Eventually, he decided that it was only fair, given that you had the right to know. He figured now's the time to reveal the truth, especially after all you've been through. With a sigh, he leaned back against the window, his eyes drifting to snow outside. "As you already know, Oba-chan was the soul husher of the demon-slaying course," he began, his tone harsh. "Apparently, she unwittingly created soul-breathing style while meditating. It was the first ever breathing style used for healing," he explained. From what I was told, demon slayers can actually use their breathing styles to heal their wounds. However, if the wound or injury is too severe, it's useless. Thoki continued, his eyes never leaving the snowfall. But Oba-chan, she took it to another level. She discovered something called Reneki. You perked at that. Reneki? Thoki nodded. It's a form of healing practice that uses energy. It arose in Japan in the mid-11th century. The philology of this art of cure assembles the human's health despite on a level and harmonious flow of the vital energy, called K. Your eye-colored eyes widened in disbelief at this. Granted, it sounded like something straight out of the cinema, though there aren't any records of it. Thoki went on, his gaze meeting yours. It's said that even Buddha himself used a form of this on one of his disciples. The revelation left you speechless. To think that Opa-chan had been capable of such an extraordinary ability was nothing short of awe-inspiring. But it also brought a new understanding to her sacrifice. She had used her life essence, her chi to save Kojiro. The human body uses energy to heal itself naturally, Thoki elaborated. But with chi, one can manipulate the energy to speed up the process. This process is called, I'm gonna butcher this, ayashiki, and can potentially be used to heal an energy or an ailment, as long as the user or requirement still has life within them. That's incredible, Thoki nodded solemnly. But it's a double-edged sword. When one uses Reneki, they expend a significant amount of their own chi to heal others. His eyes grew serious as he met yours. If the user isn't careful, or if they push themselves too far, they can end up losing their life. You briefly wondered if Oba-chan knew this when she helped heal Kojiro. Did she understand the gravity of her decision? If so, then that would explain why her demon-slaying mark had suddenly appeared on her hand. It had granted her immense power and the ability to heal Kojiro's wound. She knew she was going to die relentless of the outcome. Yet, she had done so willingly, without hesitation. It was a selfless act of love that had cost Oba-chan her life. She did it for you. It was the gift she had bestowed upon you, ensuring that you and Kojiro would be happy together. The gravity of her sacrifice was almost too much to bear, but the joy of Kojiro's revival was a beacon that pierced through the storm clouds of your sorrow. Though I'm still learning, I already know how to use Reneki to heal small wounds and bruises. You hear Thoki say, and you slowly avert your eyes to him. You bit your bottom lip, contemplating the words you're saying. Thoki, would you be able to teach me how to perform that word that I'm pronouncing wrong? You looked up at him hopefully, desperation and curiosity mending together in your gaze. Though taken aback, Thoki's expression grew serious as he already knew what's on your mind. Let me guess, you want to learn it so you can heal your friends of the demon slaying course? His question hung in the air and you nodded, feeling a mix of hope and apprenticing. The idea of being able to save the lives of your friends mid-war was tempting. With so many demon slayers out there putting their lives on the line, you felt a deep responsibility to help in any way you could. And to learn Raike, especially, in quote word, would be a powerful tool to support your friends. You almost lost Kojiro. You'd be damned if you let the same happen to any of your friends. But Thoki's response was not what you hoped for. Sorry, no can do, Snow Princess, Thoki said, shaking his head. I'm just gonna have to say it. Isolike is incredibly risky. If you use too much chi, you could follow Oba-chan to an early grave. I can't bear the thought of losing you too. His voice was firm but filled with genuine concern. But... Thoki raised his hand to silence you gently. It's not just about the risk of yourself, he said, his firm voice filled with gentle madness inside. You need to understand that there are 3 levels when using Ashike. The first one is minor bruises, cuts, and like that. The second is for serious injuries, and the third," he paused, swirling the sake in his cup, his gaze intense. "The third is healing the impossible. Oba-chan was the one who could reach that level via her soul-breathing style." Gritting your teeth, feeling the pang of disappointment. "But what if I need to save someone?" you protested, your voice laced with determination. "Save someone from what? Death?" Thoki's questions was blunt, but it hits home. Ayuke cannot heal those who are dead unless you risk giving up your own life. You took a deep breath, gravity of his words sinking in. "But what if they're on the brink, like Kojo was before he succumbed to his wound?" you asked, remembering Tanjiro telling you how Kojo still had enough energy to give him a speech despite his mortal wound. "It's still too dangerous. Imagine the amount of chi you'd have to give," Thoki said, his voice sober. "If you overdo it without breaks, you'll end up killing yourself in the process." You then thought of Kayaka. "What about Kayaka? You said Rieke can heal diseases, right?" Thoki's expression grew stern as he set his cup down. "If I recall, Kayaka's illness is a curse, a genical curse. The only thing I can see Ashiyuke doing for him is taking away his body pain. The illness itself is beyond Mei or even Oba-chan's chi to heal," he said bluntly. You groaned in frustration, setting your cup of sake down with more force than intended. "If there's a chance I can help everyone, I have to at least try. Please, Oni-san. What good am I as a demon slayer if I can't help those in need?" Thoki sorts, his stern expression not wavering. "You're the Okayana, Yen. With your ice abilities, you're already more than capable of helping fight against demons." His tone was stern, yet you could see the reluctance in his eyes. He knew the depths of your love and care for those around you. "I know you don't want your friends to die, but you can't stop death. We all can't play God." You understood. However, you still wanted to learn the technique. "Then just teach me level 1 and 2, please. I won't go beyond that," you promised, your voice unwielding. Thoki sighs, rubbing the back of his neck. He knew that arguing with you was like trying to hold back the tide. "You're always been stubborn. I'll think about it," is all he said before standing up and leaving the room. You felt a mix of hope and frustration, but you knew pushing him further wasn't going to help your cause. You knew deep down he was only trying to protect you. But he didn't want to see you doing anything reckless that would get you hurt. The desire to learn this technique burned within you, like a flame that refused to be snuffed out. You sat there, staring into the embers of the hearth, the warmth of the sake fading in your stomach as the cold reality of the conversation set in. You then averted your eyes towards the massive, I'm going to butcher this name, kamidena, or God shelf, at the corner of the room, filled with various offerings, prayers, and you immediately thought about the medicine, Tanasu, storage cabinet, in Otsu's room. You briefly wondered if Oba-chan had left any Akioko left over.